Here's exactly what you should do if a guest does not check out on time. You need to have a plan for this. I'm gonna walk you through it step by step, and we're gonna talk about what can happen if you screw this up, because it can be bad. We're gonna walk the fine line between not getting bad reviews, but not losing thousands of dollars from guest cancellations. My name's Rakidzich, you're watching Airbnb Automated. Let's jump right in. Let's get down to business here. This is a fun one because this happens way too often for us. And I know a lot of you hosts have already dealt with this situation, and it's gone really bad with some of you. And you new hosts, you'll want to have this figured out before it even happens because it can be a mess. So let's talk about checkout, the process. Let's talk about how to prevent guests not checking out on time. And let's talk about protocol if they do so. It's going to be a good wide one. We're going to talk about messages. We're going to talk about your house rules, and we're going to talk about escalation appropriately and how to do resolutions to try to get money from people if they owe you without getting bad reviews in the process. It's going to be fun. So first, checkouts. We have our check-ins at 4 p.m. and our checkouts at 11 a.m. That creates a 5-hour window, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m., where we can clean and do make-readies. So in Dallas, let's say if we have 20 apartments we're cleaning in one day, we'll have 4 or 5 housekeepers, and they've got that, 5 hours to get everything done. Now, we typically try to cluster all of our properties in the same apartment complexes, so that way they can more quickly get around and we can clean more units in less time, more efficiently. We have videos on how to clean fast. That's not the point. So if somebody checks out late, what is the damage for late checkout? There's a few things that can go wrong here. First off, your cleaners can't clean in the order that they thought they were going to be able to clean because if they can't get into a property, they can't clean it, right? And that can create a cascading effect of problems that could eventually influence a future cancellation. So we want to prevent that from happening because not being able to clean, it ups your internal cleaning costs, and then guests can have their reservations canceled. Those guests, the ones being affected by guest number 1, can actually leave you bad reviews too. So you kind of want to isolate these problems and prevent bad reviews from the affected party or giving them refunds. So the first thing you can do is to practice good prevention by communicating with every guest the night before. So step 1 is have a message system, and we've got a video on this, the 4 messages you should be sending every guest. There's a pre-checkout message that talks about, hey, thank you for staying, we hope you've enjoyed your stay, and your checkout is 11 a.m. tomorrow, here's your checkout instructions, let us know if you need anything else. Thank you very much, bon voyage. And this helps you because 1, it prevents anybody from not knowing their checkout time. 2, it instigates communication. If you have not been in communication with this guest, this allows you to communicate with them, and you can find out if they're not communicating back. This is an aspect of deciding how much trouble you're about to go through, because if you're in communication with a guest and everything's chipper, and then it's 11:30 the day of checkout and the guest hasn't checked out yet, there's a much higher likelihood that they're going to respond to you when you send them a message. Hey, your checkout time was half an hour ago. Can you let me know what the update is? We need to get in there and start cleaning. So if a guest does not respond to your pre-checkout message and then they're not responding to your communication with them at 11:30 in the morning, this is reason to believe that this one will have to go farther and you're going to have to be more aggressive in getting them out. It just helps you plan your cleaners accordingly. So that's why we do a pre-checkout message, make sure everybody knows exactly what's going on, but helps you get in the ballpark of who's on board and who's not, because no communication from a guest at this point is a big problem. So pre-checkout message, but the other thing that you need to do before we get into protocol is the house rules. So whenever a guest books a property, they have to read the house rules first, and then they click that they agree, and then they pay. If you're going to collect money from your guest, you have to put it in the house rules because Airbnb only enforces their terms of service, and there's really no other recourse unless you have scheduled fees that are in the house rules. We also have a video about this, how things that you should be putting in your house rules. So late checkout fee of $50 mandatory, unauthorized. If you're checking out late and it's not like you didn't give permission, it's a $50 fee. If somebody's staying more than 2 hours past checkout unauthorized, they are responsible to pay that day's base rate without discounts. And that does not still award you possession of the property for the day. This is just the fee that you'll have to pay for checking out more than 2 hours late without permission. And if you want to extend your stay, you still have to formally do so. Third, any refunds that any other affected Airbnb traveler gets because of your late checkout that's unauthorized, you'll be responsible for reimbursing us for any refunds given. These three things allow you then on the back end to do a resolution with that guest if they have caused your business damage. Airbnb does not refund you just because. If you have to give somebody a refund, another reservation's influence, they're not going to refund you. Airbnb is not going to help you recover that cost on their own. That's not part of their policy. So loss of business is not covered in Airbnb's insurance host guarantee policy. As much as we'd like that to be, they don't do that. So recouping losses from the guest is going to be what you're going to have to do. So then, that's in your house rules. Cool. Now let's get into protocol. You sent that pre-checkout message. Let's say they didn't communicate, and you send a cleaner, and 11:15 in the morning they try to get in, and the door's locked, and the key's not in your lockbox or whatever, and now you can't get in the property because the door's been locked, and the cleaner likes knocking and nobody answers. They're going to have to communicate with you immediately that there's a problem. So in this case, you are then going to use, we use a software called GroupMe. It's just an app, and that way they can communicate in one channel to multiple people at the same time, because we have reservations coordinators, we have management, and whoever's on shift should be able to see that GroupMe message and be able to respond quickly and efficiently, instead of the housekeeper trying to text multiple people finding who's available or whatever. GroupMe, we have kind of a housekeeping thread that every day all the housekeepers that are working that day can see the thread and communicate with their manager through that one channel. So I recommend GroupMe. That's a great one to do it. So then the reservation coordinator / manager, they're going to reach out on the Airbnb platform and they're going to send a message. And you need to do this through the Airbnb platform because if you want to get a resolution from them later, you have to prove that they checked out late. So you'll send a message like, hey, it's 11:15 or it's 11:30, checkout was a half an hour ago. The cleaner needs to take possession of the property to start cleaning for our next guest. Can you please check out as soon as possible? Communicate with me that you've read this. Thank you. And then you're also going to send them a text message and you're going to call them. You're going to do all of them, but you have to still put one message on the Airbnb platform if you want to get a refund later or you want to have proof to Airbnb. So after that, if they don't respond, of course, by 11:30, you should be trying to communicate with them. If checkout was at 11, you should already be in attempts to communicate with them. And by 11:30, I would then call Airbnb. And let me put the phone number here. Let me just write it there. And then I'm going to put it in the description so you can save it into your phone. You need this phone number. Call Airbnb and say, hey, I'm a host. Here's my situation. This guest is the one that's not checking out. That's important because now Airbnb will then try to contact those guests too. And hopefully Airbnb can get a hold of them and ask them to leave and let them know that it's serious, that they get out. Give them 15 to 30 minutes and then you're going to send a message to them at noon. Say checkout's at 11, you're gonna send a message at noon. Be like, hey, it's been an hour. We still need possession of the property. And let me remind you that unauthorized late checkouts have a $50 fee that's automatically incurred that you're going to be owing. And if you stay any longer, if you stay another hour, you're going to be, billed for an entire day of stay, just, our base rate for the day. Now, because you're going to be recouping money from them, now that it's been an hour, that's when we officially charge people for late checkout. Star that message so that way you can find that message later. We're going to talk about this in a second. So now you've sent them that message like, hey, you're already due to pay $50. You're going to be due to pay a whole day's worth of stay in about an hour if you don't check out. We absolutely have to have possession of the property, so we're going to send a cleaner in right now to start cleaning. And so now you've kind of you're not bluffing, but you're not actually about to immediately send the cleaner in. You're getting prepared to do so. So they might respond going, hey, no, don't send anybody in here. We'll get out, but just leave us alone. That could happen. And then you're going to give that a little bit of time. You're going to set, in the meantime, you're having the cleaner come and check the door every 30 minutes, but you need to send them somewhere else to clean in the meantime. So that's why we recommend having, multiple units in the same property, so that way they can go clean something else and still make good use of their time. And that way they can get their day done. If they have to drive across town for every property, this is not really possible. So I recommend clustering your properties for efficiency's sake. So let's say it's getting closer to 1. It's about to reach that 2-hour mark and that, they haven't got out yet. At that point, at about the hour and a half mark, you've given them another half an hour to try to get out and the cleaner came back and nobody knocked. You're going to send another message saying, hey, this is getting to be a really big problem. We still can't get a hold of you, or we still can't take possession of the property. So we're going to call the police now to have you removed from the property because because of the no communication, we don't feel comfortable sending the cleaner in alone. So we're going to call the cops and have you removed. And This is just because we have not been able to get a hold of you and you no longer have a valid active reservation. You are technically trespassing, and we have to do our job for the interest of our future guests. This is the one that really does the trick typically. The moment you mention that you're calling the police, by the way, you're putting all of these messages on the Airbnb platform, you're then also texting them after you put it on the platform. Everything has to be on the platform. The moment that it's 1 p.m. and they have not checked out yet, you're going to send a message like, hey, it's 1:05. It's more than 2 hours past the checkout time. You're still not out of the property. We're going to have to invoke the day rate charge. And reminder, you still don't have possession of the property. This is just your fee for potentially damaging our future, reservations, and for causing us, extra costs with our housekeeping team. So then you've now documented that they are going to owe you money. You may actually now have to call the police. And what I would do is I would send the cleaner in, and I'd keep them on the phone. The one thing you don't want is to put your housekeepers in a situation where they're going to have to confront the guest. Your housekeepers are nice, innocent people. They're not supposed to be like pit bulls or junkyard dogs. So send them in, but ask them to stay on the phone with you, so that way if somebody's in there, they can just on speakerphone hand it off to you, and you can be like, hey, I'm your host. Your checkout was like an hour ago. And so, we're going to start cleaning because we have another guest coming in. We have to make the place ready. I'm sorry if your phone's off or something. We've just got to do our job. Thank you. So at about that hour mark that you said that you're going to send a cleaner in, you will attempt to, and you'll have them on the phone. And if they can get access to the property, cool. If no one's there, you're going to see that there's stuff in the property, and you'll take photos of the stuff that's in the property, have the housekeeper take those photos and send them to you. And that way you can put them on the message thread like, here's your property as we found it. We're cleaning, and we're going to move all your property to the door. And if you don't come in a certain period of time, we're going to move your property out of the property, but we're going to hold it by the front door for you until the 11th hour, out of respect for you. But we can't have this stuff here during the next reservation. So that you're going to have the cleaner clean at this point if they can. So if they still can't get possession of the property because the upper deadbolt's locked, things like that, then you're going to call the police at about an hour and a half in and say, I've got a housekeeper or I have an employee that needs to access one of our properties. We conduct short-term rentals. We have a old customer who no longer has right to access the property, and they're technically trespassing now. And because of the way communication has gone or has not gone, we don't feel comfortable having our housekeeper attempt to take possession of the property alone. So we'd like to have a lawful escort to prevent any escalation through a situation where the trespasser won't leave on their own. And so that's kind of your thing to tell a police officer, or when you call dispatch to have them bring somebody by. This can take a while because it's not like a high priority crime. So you might have your housekeeper waiting around for a bit. But hopefully when you do tell them that you're invoking the police, that they respond pretty quickly, because that typically tends to be the case on our end. So now this has led to the point that you are going to be charging this guest for damages, the checkout fees, and now you may have to move a guest. So that's another reason why we have multiple units that look the same. We'll pick up 4 properties in the same building, and they'll furnish them to all look identical. So if we have to move somebody, that way we can do so without really affecting them too much. It's not like they lost the quality that they were looking for. They just got an identical unit. This has been helpful for us. One thing too is you don't want to cause this cascading problem where one reservation affects another. So if you're going to move somebody, just move them for as little time as possible, and then move them back to their proper reservation, because you don't want to move somebody who's got a 5-day reservation and then affect another 3-day reservation that has to get moved and cause a domino effect where everything has to line up perfectly. That can be a mess. So you will need to refund the guest that you moved for like a day. Like, hey, I'm going to give you this day for free, and we're going to move you back to your original property the next day. I'm so sorry, but we've got a guest that won't vacate the property, and he's caused us an issue, but we've handled it. There's slight inconvenience, and you'll be compensated for that slight inconvenience. Sorry. Then you're going to invoke the refund clause in your house rules from this guest. So just document all this. So if you have to give somebody a refund, you're going to put in the message thread, hey, we're moving the guest who is supposed to come in today because you're still not checked out, or you've checked out so late that we had to accommodate them and give them a refund on their stay. And here's how much that refund is for. And we're going to be sending you a resolution for this amount in the future. So by documenting it, you're putting a placeholder. And this allows you then 2 weeks later, when the review time has ended, you can then do your refund request or your resolution request and not have them do like a retaliatory review because they're mad that you're going to be seeking money from them. So that's my recommendation for preventing a bad review from the person who's, leaving late. And by not being this hyper-aggressive person where 20 minutes into late checkout, you're like, telling them, we're gonna access the property, we're gonna call the police. You don't wanna do that stuff either. You need to escalate this up over the course of 2 hours to give somebody the benefit of the doubt and to look like you're a responsible party. And then after about 2 hours, you really are taking the property back aggressively, but that time frame allows you to, wherever somebody just made an accident, it allows you to work with them so that way you still come off as good people, because you don't want to like upset every single guest that checks out late, because it happens pretty frequently. 2 weeks later, you invoke your resolutions and start the resolution process. So for this, you star the message because you may have thousands of reservations and you may need to do resolutions on 15 of those. And trying to go back 2 weeks through all of the messages can be really tough. But if you star them, you can filter out all the unnecessary messages, and then you can go through the starred ones and just look for your communication with Airbnb, which you star, and then your communication with the guest that needs to refund you money, you star that one too. So that way all of your hyper important messages can be filtered and accessed quickly. That's been a huge hack for us, especially since we have a co-host account that does all the communication. The co-host account can't do the resolution request. They can do all the communication, they can upload proof of the late checkout photos, they can do all that other stuff, they can call Airbnb, but when it comes time to do resolution, the admin account is the one that has to do the resolution. So you need to make sure that everything gets handed off easily to the admin. You'll also need to organize all these because you may forget to ask somebody for money when they owe it to you. So have a document like a Google Drive or Evernote, which is something that we use to stay organized. And that's free, by the way. Evernote's nice and free. And so is Google Drive. You create a resolution list and say, this is the reservation code, this is the date of checkout, guest name, and here's how much money and why we need to charge them. And then you can do the resolution date, the date that we're going to invoke the resolution. And so it's almost like this to-do list that you just check them off once you actually open up the resolutions. And then airbnb.com/resolutions, all of your resolutions will be seen there for your admin account, and you just go visit that. And they'll either pay or deny, and once they deny or don't respond, after 3 days of not responding, you can then escalate to Airbnb, and Airbnb gets involved. Now, if you've done this right, that message thread will have all of your proof that they didn't check out on time, and your house rules will have the documentation. And so Airbnb will send you a message, say, hey, how would you like to handle this? We need this, this, and this. You'll say, okay, so house rules shows our fee structure. Just take a look at that, and the message thread is all the proof you need that they checked out late or whatever. And then also, here's a screenshot of the other guest that we had to refund, right? Here's the situation, and here's proof that this reservation directly affected this reservation. Put that all together, and now you've got your refund protocol. So this is a big hot mess for just a very simple problem, right? So in review, you're going to practice prevention by sending messages first to instigate communication to make sure everybody understands your checkout. 2, you're going to have house rules, 3 points in your house rules, of which you're going to be able to recuperate damages or loss from that guest. Next, your housekeepers are going to show up. They're going to communicate through like GroupMe or whatever platform you choose, and they're going to communicate quickly if there's ever a housekeeping problem. You need a plan to reallocate that housekeeper to keep them busy so you're not losing money on the housekeeper as you're trying to provide this person about a total hour before you start to charge them. You then communicate through the Airbnb platform. You're going to star that message if you're going to need to get a refund from that person. And then you're also going to communicate directly through their phone numbers. And if their phone number does not work, you are going to just, basically blow Airbnb up and say, hey, this profile is really funky, their phone's not working, we're going to have to remove this guest. And if you see our 4 messages that you should be sending every guest video, we actually talk about this. I have my reservation coordinators now try to reach out to people before every reservation, and if their phone number does not work properly, we will call Airbnb and we'll try to contact that guest and say, we need a working phone number, otherwise we're going to cancel your reservation, because you have to have a working phone number for you to stay with us. And that's a way for us to prevent fraud and identity theft, because that's a big thing. So you take that 2 hours where you escalate to become more and more aggressive. That might actually involve the police because the person is trespassing. And then in order to prevent bad review from that person that you're ejecting from your property, give it 2 weeks before you invoke your resolution. Just keep everything documented in the platform. Remember, the admin has to do the resolution, the co-host can't. And then you may need to reaccommodate the guest affected, and you're going to have to give them a refund if you reaccommodate them, and you're going to charge that first guest for it, because that guest can still give you a bad review too for the runaround. So good, solid communication with the second guest is going to be important, and you try to go above and beyond to save their mood, because travel is a big deal for people. So, if you have any other questions that have to do with other guest problems that you've had, we've had like over 10,000 reservations lifetime, and we have hundreds of them a month. So, I've pretty much seen everything. So, if you want me to talk about another guest problem that you've had, just leave it in the comments and we'll get to it. And with that said, thank you for watching Airbnb Automated. Hope you enjoyed this. If you did, leave us a like. I should probably be asking for the likes 2 minutes in instead of 20 minutes in. And if I haven't earned your subscribe click yet, hopefully I get to earn it in the future. But anyways, thank you for watching Airbnb Automated, and I will see you on the other side.